Welcome to Bob's Sales Camp. I'm Bob Kimball, and this is Mod 1, Essence of a Sales Pro. And you are a salesperson. Now, I realize that doesn't sound like a compliment because let's think about what comes to mind when I say salesperson. Think about it. Oh, we think of sort of someone maybe selling vacuum cleaners door to door, something like that, or maybe selling used cars down on Palafox. That's not what this is all about. But that still is the residual that people seem to think of when you hear the term salesperson. This just brings back memories of when I was a little kid. My dad was in sales, and I recall so many times the kids in the neighborhood would be standing around and playing this little game of, what does your daddy do? Well, they said, hey, Susie, what does your daddy do? And she'd say, well, my daddy is, he works for the government. And then, Johnny, what does your daddy do? I said, well, my daddy, he's a sanitary engineer. And then I knew it was coming. Hey, Skinny Bobby Kimball, what does your daddy do? And I kind of shrink in my space, my shoulders would go down, my eyes would fall on the floor, and I'd go, my daddy is just a salesperson. Well, that's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a salesperson as someone who is basically an expert, a consultant, and a helper, and someone that has got business building ideas that they take to their clients. And basically, we should see ourselves as a salesperson as being as valuable as their most valuable employee in all of this. Because let's face it, people, we cannot compete on price versus online. So we have to be adding value here overall. So to kind of get us started here, let's define salesmanship. I define salesmanship as a conscious attempt to achieve one's objectives by persuading others to act in a manner conducive to the attainment of those objectives. Let's sort of walk through that thing. Conscious attempt, you're doing this thing on purpose, to achieve one's objectives. You're out to get what you want. How do you do it? By persuading others to act in a manner that helps you get what you want to attain your objectives. Hey, am I talking about manipulation here, people? Well, not really. I'm talking about power. And like any kind of power, you can use it for good, you can use it for evil. I'm sure you've had a number of people who have persuaded you to act in a certain way, and it was to your detriment. And when they got through with you, they finally just threw you away. Well, I'm willing to bet that those people don't get a Christmas card from you, and you don't invite them to your birthday party. And in sales, the reality is we build our business with repeat business and referrals. And we get that by always acting in the customer's best interest at all times. There's no conflict of interest here. It's not just doing what's best for us versus what is the good thing. No, the good thing is the right thing overall here. And so what we're trying to do here as a professional rep is help them what they want, what they need, what they care about, while I get the same thing from me. On this, key point we're going to look at on selling is the difference between features and benefits. So often a sales rep gets hung up talking about the features of their product. Well, the features are just the facts, the statistics, the numbers about your product, service, system, and so forth. But the focus is on the product, on you. We ain't going there. Benefits, by contrast, are what those features mean to the prospect and their company. The focus is on them. And here's the thing, folks, let's understand this too. Life is one great big selling presentation. You're selling all the time. Even little everyday events. Something's brought to mind for me. I was going up to Philadelphia to do a sales training program up there. Well, I have to fly out of Pensacola. I flew to Atlanta, I had to change planes, then go fly to Philly. So, got on the plane in Atlanta. I'm sitting on board there. I'm on the window seat. There's an empty seat next to me, and then guy sitting in the aisle seat. We're just about set to take off, and all of a sudden, just before the door closes, I see this very, very large woman carrying a screaming child coming down the hallway. So very quickly, I counted up the number of open seats. There's 13 seats, which means the probability of her sitting next to me is 0.076293. Guess where she sits? Right next to me. Selling opportunity. I said to her, wow, this is so great that you're sitting here. I thought I was going to have to fly all the way to Philadelphia without anyone to talk to. You see, I'm in sales. What do you think she does? She immediately hits her call button and gets to change her seat. It's exactly what I wanted her to do in a day-to-day selling situation. But let's kind of take our focus on to something of a more typical selling situation. I'll tell you what we do. I'll go back to a scene that happened to me when I was just coming down here to the University of West Florida. I was just finishing up my doctorate at the University of Georgia. I had accepted a position here. I was coming down here to do some house hunting for the weekend. So I was just checking into a pretty decent hotel. It's got a nice restaurant, it's got a nice lounge and everything else, and pretty good features and stuff like that. Just fixing to check in, and some guy walks up to me, and I'm attired at the time in about like I am now, but without a tie, and he's a tie salesman. So he just presents, "Sir," and I go, "Huh? Like, who are you? What do you want?" He then presents himself as a tie salesperson. I immediately say, "Forget it. No, I hate ties. I can't stand ties. I'm not interested in ties. I've got all I need. I'm graduate teaching assistant at the University of Georgia. I have to wear a tie to teach in class. By the way, you ever been up UGA? Oh, let me tell you, the stuff they got sitting in the classroom up there. Oh my goodness, it's just unbelievable." But anyhow, after looking at all that all day, I had to get out of that classroom, out of the classroom. Off comes the tie. I'm heading down to 40 Watt to have a couple of beers before I go out for the evening. But no, I don't want ties. And this weekend, I'm down here just house hunting, and I'm paying cash, buddy, so I don't need a tie to anything there whatsoever. So you're the sales rep hearing all this, me battling on, and you think, oh my goodness, this is terrible. No, it's really not terrible. The prospect is talking. The prospect, if you keep the prospect talking, they might give you some idea of what you need to do to sell them. So the prospect keeps talking about, oh, this drive he made down from Athens to here. He comes down, everything was pretty good, get down I-65, gets down there and sees the sign which says, Pensacola, exits 69 or 57. So I'm thinking, hey, another 12 miles on the interstate sounds good to me. Oh, is that a mistake? So I get off at exit 57, which takes me through Atmore. 7 traffic lights, got them all red. And I got a train. So I'm sitting there at the train, waiting for this train to go by, watching all the Atmorons, and just finally get out of there. And then I go on and say, but that's anyhow, that's done. I am really beat. I had me 3 hours of rest last night. I am just going to get to my room and have a nice, quiet 12-pack of Yingling Black and Tan. But anyhow, I don't need that blah, 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 and I go on like this. So you're hearing all of this as this person's babbling on. And if you're perceptive, and if you're listening to what's going on, you begin to think and say, wait a second. What's going to start going through this guy's mind after about the 3rd or 4th beer? And he's sitting in his room all by himself. You know what? I bet he's going to start thinking, I wonder if I could go out for the night and see what's going on out here or something like that. Pretty clear. We might have an opportunity to say to him something like that. Well, sir, there's really no need for you to have to sit in your room all like this. This hotel has got a real neat lounge here. And this is Friday afternoon. They got a good happy hour here. And a lot of very interesting, eligible women are at this happy hour. But you know what you need to really make the right impression at that happy hour tonight? A tie. And not just a tie. This tie is from the Art Institute of Chicago. So it kind of shows this person's got some class. It's a little thing that kind of gives a bit of show for you and stuff like this. That's why the person might want the tie, because of being able to create an impression out of that lounge tonight. Now, does everybody buy for the same reasons? No, everybody's different. Got to get them talking. So I go out there and I find the person is saying, well, I'm a minister from Bamberg, South Carolina, and I'm away from my flock for the evening. So I'm going to sit in my room and just do some inspirational reading. Well, so what do you say? Hey, sir, there's no reason for you to sit in your room reading. You can score tonight. No, come on. You're going to say to this person something like, oh, sir, no reason for you to just sit by yourself tonight. You're in Pensacola. How many nights a week is there a prayer meeting in Pensacola? 8. But what does he need to go to that prayer meeting tonight? A tie. And not just a tie. This is Chagall's windows. This is a tie that is really going to be spiritually uplifting. The perfect thing for you to go to that prayer meeting tonight. This is going to really create an impression for you. You're going to be creating such an impression, they're going to ask you to stand up and testify. I got to get back to my medication. Okay, but anyhow, yeah, it's going to be different for different people. So you get them talking about these things. So the key points we're going to look at on selling, 4 key words. Focus, probe, listen, control. Listen is the key. So your focus is on the prospect. Everything's about them. Get them doing the talking. Probe, ask questions. No, people, you're not here making a presentation. That doesn't happen. You're standing there asking them questions, getting them involved, helping them to discover the truth for themselves. You listen, pick up on the cues that are being sent to you, and listen with your eyes as well as your ears to get a sense of when cues are hitting somewhere or something like this. And then you control the whole thing. You help guide them through the process. And so what you do with this is you basically help them discover an idea on their own. Now, when you're out selling, naturally, your focus is on the person with the final authority to make the buying decision. The corn-fed big kahuna, as I like to call this person here. Now, I've had this situation, I made the mistake, in which I'll talk to my assistant and see what my assistant thinks, and if my assistant likes it, he'll bring it to me. Oh, is that a mistake? Because the assistant is not committed to it by themselves. I've got to get the corn-fed big kahuna there, him or herself, to get this thing done right. But I want to make the point then, again, focusing on the prospect, why they would want to be there. Because I am sure that you will have some questions that I will need to answer for you. Get it? How we do this thing here? Now, sometimes, unfortunately, that buying influence is not readily available. Usually they are. Sometimes they're an obscure person someplace, maybe in a different city or something like that. That's a problem. And trying to be in something like that if you can. I can remember a situation happened to me and dealing with one of these people, and they can say no, and everybody else says yes. I'd done some sales training programs with Coca-Cola bottlers, and I'd started in Birmingham, and Montgomery, and to Rome, and Chattanooga. I was trying to get to Knoxville, Tennessee. Well, Knoxville is big. You've got your Coca-Cola bottlers. You've got in the extreme southeast corner, you got Chattanooga. In the northeast corner, you got Maryville, Morristown, Jellicoe. Then you got all the way over to Nashville. In the middle of all that, it's all Knoxville. They got like 200 driver salesmen. I can close a program in Knoxville. It's going to keep me busy for the whole training season and all that. The thing that's nice about this, their sales manager is someone I had worked with at Coca-Cola as one of our district reps. And I had worked with Pat Roddy Jr., who was the second generation of the bottling business there, so I knew him pretty well. So I had a meeting with them and went through the presentation. Everything looked good. They're on board. One of them even stood up and said, hey, I'm sold. Then they came down and said, well, we got to run this by the old man. Old man Roddy. Old man Roddy was like pushing 90 at the time. He just had an obscure office out there someplace, and they told me just kind of be cool with him, let him talk, let him show you all the memorabilia and stuff like that. So okay, I said okay, I'll do that, and so went up there and he was showing me the trays and all the different glasses and all the stuff like this, and so he's going through the whole thing, and then finally Pat Roddy Jr. Says, Dad, the reason Bob's here is he's talking about doing some sales and management training for our driver salesmen and their managers. And the old man says, sales training? We don't need sales training. We sell Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola sells itself. I'm dead. That's the problem with the economic decision maker on this. But there's others too. And don't forget all those others who are going to be impacted and also will have an influence on that buying decision. The users, the people who will use directly and live with it day by day and all this. Get those people on board. Don't take them for granted, just simply they're going to have to take orders. No. Oh, story on this one here. I was up calling in Kansas City Coca-Cola back in 1973. Computers were just coming on board at the time. Let me put this in perspective. Coming up to that time, everything was on paper. A driver salesman would go into an account. He would write out the order on the paper. We need 4 cases of Sprite 12 packs, all this, all the way down the list. Those papers would then go into the office at the end of the day. Someone would have to punch on their little computer, the little manual computer, 4 times whatever the price is equals, write down the number, add up all the numbers. Then they'd have to manually add up the whole thing so they knew how to load up the truck that night so it would deliver the next day what they needed. Can you imagine having to do that? Today, of course, we do. We just punch it out. It's all this. You download it. All the numbers are there. The billing is sent directly out. The instructions are there for the crew to load it and all that stuff. But at this time, we were just getting on to getting computers into the system like this. They had a person there who was their sales manager, tough old Swede, Will Olberg. And they just handed it to Will, said, Will, implement the program. So, didn't ask his input, didn't say anything about him, just do it, Will. Okay. So, after about 2 weeks of doing this, it wasn't working out. The numbers weren't coordinating too well. So they went back to Will and said, Will, tell you what, this thing is not really working out quite right now. Tell you what you do. We're going to run the systems in parallel. We're going to run the computer and the manual, and once we get them matched up, then we're going to be good to go. And Will says, I can't do that, boss. He says, well, why not, Will? Because Will says, well, when we went into the computerized system, you told me to get rid of all the paper records. I destroyed all our paper records. One of the things you may figure out when you're dealing with employees, don't take them for granted. Sometimes they can mess you up big time by doing exactly what you told them to do. And that's what Will had done. They had 2 weeks in which they had no idea of what products were delivered to whom. They had no idea how to bill anybody or anything else like that. Don't ignore that person. Get them on board. Another one, too, is the technical people. They're going to see if it meets the specs. Now, I mentioned Dad was in sales. Dad was in the ingredients business for food products. Spices, flavorings, and the like. We lived at that time in Glenview, Illinois, which is where Kraft Foods was at the time. Kraft is one of Dad's biggest accounts. And in fact, salad dressing, barbecue sauce, all that, all those spices and flavors in there were from Dad's company that got that in there. So they had their technical people that had to evaluate your proposal for what your flavoring is going to be to see if it met their specs. Well, hey, they're not going to let a sales rep talk to their technical people. That ain't going to happen. But what Dad discovered was very useful. They would let his technical people work with their technical people. And Dad made a point of selling them on the idea that, hey, I want to make sure this proposal really meets your needs. So I'll get my technical people to work with your technical people to be sure that when I put the proposal together, is something that's exactly what will fit what you want. Got it done. and made it happen in that particular case. So let's kind of do an overview of here on what we've done in Mod 1, the essence of a sales pro. My big line on Mod 1 is know your stuff. Know it cold. Don't know it just a little bit. Don't think, well, I can look it up on my laptop or something like that. Know, because you may be in a selling situation out in a golf course, sitting in a restaurant, doing something like that. You got to know it, and know it absolutely cold when you walk into that office like that. Know everything about your product. How does it compare against the competition? Good things, bad things. Know everything about your industry, the emerging alternatives, the legal environment. Then, of course, everything to know about the prospect and all those people that would influence that particular prospect. And then you gotta know the prospect's business, their customers, and their customers' business. Because what we're going to do here, we're going to help their customers serve their customers. That's the whole idea. It's what we're going to try to do on this thing here. We're going to help them exploit opportunities. That's how we're going to be like one of their most valuable employees. So our customers help to serve their customers and all that. Within the whole thing, do an assessment overall too of where you are with things too. First of all, things to double check on before you even take a job. Your company must have some differential advantage and be totally committed to serving its customers. How can you go in and try to sell something when you don't have that backup system? Similarly, the support system has got to be able to deliver on their services and make it easy to do business with you. And you got to be able to say, hey, we're the best. We're worth the price. And I cannot overemphasize the whole point. Forget the good old boy network. It's amazing. Go out to these chamber happy hours. These people are sitting around, they're standing out there, and they're kind of smiling, they're talking, they're passing out the business cards back and forth. No. Happy hour is a time that people know each other get together. If someone intrudes and tries to do a sales pitch, that card's going to get thrown right in the trash. Forget that good old boy network. In the Coca-Cola business, it worked in the 40s because in the 40s there was no competition. But today, if you were a Coca-Cola rep and you walked into, say, Publix, laughing, singing, joking, stuff like this, playing the good old boy approach, they're going to throw you out the door. Because that manager is there because that manager wants to be successful in this store. Being successful there, they may get the opportunity to get promoted to a bigger store in a bigger market. Be successful there, they might get a superstore in a major metro. Successful there, they get promoted to headquarters as a buyer. They're in the corporate fast track. You come in there playing good old boy, forget it. You better go in there with some business building ideas. And by the way, selling is so simple. It's all about how can I help you increase your profits, reduce your costs, and make your life easier with my products, services, and me. That's what this whole program is going to be about. And so, that's Mod 1, Essence of a Sales Pro. And this is Bob's Sales Camp.